All right, welcome back to Redneck Rantings. It is Thursday, April the 25th, 2019. We got us a brand new rant. I want to talk about guns because, well, we've kind of had some heavier shit with the politics lately. And guns to me are kind of a fun topic, and I want to talk about guns. Specifically, I want to talk about do not pimp out your gun. Now, what do I mean by that? Do I mean, let's talk about what I'm not talking about here, all right? What I'm not talking about is I'm not arguing against things like adding a really nice optic so that you can see your target better and be more accurate with your firearm, okay? I'm not talking about if you do a lot of shooting, adding a barrel shroud so that you don't burn your hand, or if you're a lefty like me. I don't mean that you should not modify your firearm in such a way as to be more functional for a left-handed shooter. Okay? Part of the reason why I chose the carry gun that I did is because as a left-handed person, it's very, very difficult in some respects for me to do things like activate and deactivate the safety, eject the magazine on a standard gun. So that was one of the features that I looked for. And if you're a left-handed shooter, by all means, modify your gun to be most comfortable and most functional for the fact that you are a lefty and consequently things are kind of backwards for us. So I don't mean that, all right? What I'm talking about when I say don't pimp out your gun is don't do stupid shit like put superhero logos on your gun, okay? Now, personally, I am a huge superhero fan. You can't really tell it by the background of my somewhat ratty little duplex here, but I am a big, big superhero fan. In point of fact, I met the love of my life, my best friend, my soulmate, my wife. I met her at a local comic book shop, and I credit our mutual love for all things geeky to... I give that partial credit for the fact that we've lasted under some very trying circumstances. It's a common interest that's kept us together. But under no circumstances would I ever put any kind of superhero iconography on my firearm, and neither should you. And I'm talking about on a rifle, on a shotgun, on a hunting weapon. For God's sake, do not put it on a fucking carry weapon, okay? Do not do that. I cannot emphasize that enough. Batman is my absolute favorite superhero of all time, even though he's not technically a superhero. I would never ever put the bat sign on my carry gun. You see these idiots out there who put the who put the Frank Castle Punisher skull on the grips of their gun, or the Deadpool logo, or some other stuff like that. I got a coworker, and I like this guy and I respect him. He's an 8-year veteran. He can do whatever the hell he wants. I think he's making a bad choice when he talks about the fact that he wants to get an AR and trick it out in colors similar to Imperial Stormtrooper armor. And I say that even though I'm a huge Star Wars fan myself. These are supremely ill-advised ideas. I would also, in this category, in the just don't do it, okay? Excuse me, category, include any mall merc tough guy bullshit. Things like kill 'em all, let God sort 'em out. Or there's a case a couple of years ago where a California police officer was involved in an on-duty shooting, and he had the words "you're fucked" inscribed on the dust cover on the ejection port on his rifle. And that weapon was used in a duty-related shooting, and he almost lost his freedom and his career over this. And the reason for this, the reason you want to avoid all that stuff, and even things like I see that these days they are marketing pink and purple guns, and even my wife, who likes those colors, looks at this and says, why? I understand where it's coming from. It's marketing, and it's not a bad idea to market guns in these colors because, it might attract female shooters, and we certainly want to be as inclusive as possible. The problem is the common thread with all of these things, superhero logos, non-standard colors like pink and purple. Green is my favorite color. You wouldn't know it to look at my attire, but I love the color green. If there was a green gun, I would personally never own it. Any look at what a tough guy talk I am. I'll give you a pass if you're in the military. If you're in the military, you're putting your ass on the line. You can write whatever the fuck you want on your weapons because you're protecting my ass. But if you're a civilian, or honestly, even if you're a cop, it's a bad fucking idea. The reason for this is because, God forbid, you should ever have to use that weapon in self-defense. As I've said a couple of times, I do carry a pistol pretty much anywhere that I can legally do so. And I've come very, very close on 2 separate occasions to pulling it. I'm grateful I didn't have to, but if, and I pray to the gods that you never, ever, ever have to pull a gun on another human being, just as close as I came, as scary as hell. If you do that, the cops will get involved. If, worst case scenario, you pull the trigger and you put a bullet into another human being, however justified it may be, there's a very good chance that you are going to be up in front of a grand jury unless it is an absolute ironclad, no wiggle room, you had no fucking choice but to drop the hammer on this individual kind of scenario. And those aren't as common as we like to pretend they are. If there's any ambiguity as to the justification of your actions, local law enforcement is going to err on the side of public safety. They are going to convene a grand jury. They're going to decide whether or not to charge you with anything from assault with a deadly weapon to attempted murder to outright homicide. And jury trials are, at the end of the day, they are popularity contests. It really comes down to how do 12 people feel about you, and in this particular case, your specific personal decision to carry a gun and actually use it on another human being. And remember, this is a very politically high-strung time. People are very, very, I'm sorry, I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. People are very, very divided. That isn't the precise word that I want. But what the hell is the dog doing? People are very, very divided over the subject of firearms and the use of civilian-applied deadly force. If you get into that situation and a jury is forced to evaluate the justification of your actions, whether or not you were right to take a human life or attempt to, one of the things that you're going to be evaluated on is how serious you were taking this responsibility. Make no mistake, carrying a gun is a huge responsibility, all right? And if they see that you just have a standard, ordinary, off-the-shelf, no mods pistol, it's black, it holds bullets, it goes bang, there's no tough guy graffiti on it, there's nothing out of the ordinary about it, there's no superhero iconography, and I keep on getting back to that, then you have a pretty good chance of walking. You're going to go, okay, you know what? The odds are better for you of the jury saying, you know what, this is a regular person just like me who just got themselves into a bad spot and they really had no other choice but to do what they did. On the other hand, if you have something like you're fucked or kill 'em all, let God sort 'em out, or another one that I saw one time, smile and wait for the flash, which, okay, I find that funny as hell, but I'd never put it on my gun. That is going to diminish how responsible you look in the eyes of a jury. And if you've got somebody on that jury who is not a real big fan of the Second Amendment, that's going to tip their opinion against you more than it already is. Same thing, and again, I go back to the superhero thing. especially the Punisher logos. This is going to make even a relatively pro-gun person, somebody who does believe in the Second Amendment, but what we call a FUD, i.e. somebody who believes that the Second Amendment is about hunting. It's not about hunting. That's going to make them look at you and say, this asshole thinks he's a fucking vigilante. He's not out there looking to protect himself. He's out there having read too many goddamn comic books, watched too many movies from the Marvel Universe, he's watched too many episodes of the Netflix show. He thinks he's Frank Castle or Wade Wilson or one of these other costume jerk-offs. And he was probably out there looking for trouble. If not consciously, subconsciously. They're going to think, you know what, on some level, this guy was hoping he would get an excuse to draw on another human being. Okay? You want to present as much as possible being the sort of person who, when you pick up your gun and you put it on your holster, the thought uppermost in your mind is, please, whatever higher power listens to me, please don't let me have to point this at another human being today or ever. That's the impression you want to put. But if you go and put iconography from somebody who is famous for, admittedly a fictional character, but who is fictionally famous for taking the law into their own hands, then that means that on some level, some people are going to think, well, that must mean that you've got a vigilante mindset. You relate to Frank Castle or Wade Wilson or Bruce Wayne, who, let's face it, is as fucked up as the people he fights in certain ways. And that could put your ass in prison. That could make the difference. I would say that to a lesser degree, the pretty colors, pink, purple, green, whatever, those are also going to be ill-advised for similar reasons. It's going to be much, much harder for a defense lawyer to convince 12 of your peers that you take the literal life or death responsibility of carrying a gun in public as seriously as you should if it looks like a fucking Easter egg, okay? If it's done up in pastel pink or pastel lavender because, well, that's just my lucky color and I like the vibes. Fuck it. At that point, that is not the gun you should be carrying. That should be your range gun. Have fun with it. But your carry gun should be basic black. It should take bullets. It should go bang. It should work. It should not have any look how clever and how expressive I'm trying to be bullshit on it. Hell, my favorite author signed my holster, and I actually had some second thoughts about that, but I figured, you know what? It's a signature. I'll roll the dice. But I didn't ask him to do anything like, say, draw a picture of a manatee with a Tommy gun on it. And if you know who I'm talking about, you get the reference. So that's the rant. When you are selecting a firearm, and I understand that these are very expensive items. God knows I just dropped a fuck ton of money on one about a month ago. When you are selecting your firearm, yes, you want it to suit your personal aesthetic as much as possible. One of the reasons why I picked the gun that I did is, admittedly, in part, I like the look of it. I like the very simple, clean lines of the AK platform. But you need to balance that desire to express yourself with the optics of it in the eyes of others, how other people are going to perceive the choices that you made. I would never in a million years, like I said, put a bat logo on the stock of my AK or, any religious quote, because I follow a branch of paganism and I do tend to kind of take a guardian path. I would never put any inspirational Valhalla-esque quotes anywhere on my guns, specifically because I don't want a jury looking at this and going, this cocksucker thinks he's a fucking Viking. All right? No. Keep it simple. Find other ways to express yourself. It will save you a lot of trouble. It'll save your lawyer a lot of headaches. And it'll make it much, much, much less likely that you see the inside of a jail cell. Because remember, it only takes a couple of people to decide, you know what, this is not the person who should be carrying a firearm. And then suddenly, you go from a clean shoot, a law-abiding citizen who is exercising his God-given right to personal defense, to a wannabe tough guy, a wannabe vigilante who really shouldn't be trusted with this responsibility, and just for the good of society, just in case, let's get him and the gun off the street. So that's it. Be well, be safe, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell. If you got any comments, by all means, feel free to share them. I do reserve the right to delete comments that I don't particularly care for. And again, if there's anything you'd like to hear me talk about, by all means, please do mention it in the comments below. Have a great night. I'll talk to you later. Peace out. Bye-bye.